I've had a couple recent experiences that have reminded me how difficult it is to be a successful manufacturer and how even making small mistakes can impact your reputation in the long run. It also depends on the reputation you've also formed when you make those mistakes. Recently, I've had experiences with challenges, manufacturing challenges, potentially design challenges with two manufacturers. One is Option-O, who has an impeccable reputation for quality, and the other one is Varia. The issue that I've had with the Varia grinder is with this Varia VS6 right here. The issue is one that I've only had with this grinder. I actually have two of these. I have another one here in the house currently, and with that one I have had zero issues whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I love it. That's why I chose to get a second one. However, the specific issue is one that is related to manufacturing, something that maybe others might not have detected. This had been the first one I had purchased and had never had another product from Varia before. I would have formed an impression based off of this purchase alone and the obvious QA or manufacturing issues related to this one. The issue that I'm having with this is related to the actual drive axle that comes up from the electric motor and attaches to the lower burr, the rotating burr. And the problem is the drive axle has run out in it. If you don't know what that means, for run out, when you have an axle, the axle should be very straight. It shouldn't basically wobble in a circle. So the issue that I've experienced with this VS6 is that the drive axle does have that wobble. The device I'm using here is called a dial test indicator, and each line on the dial represents 12.7 microns. So you can see that the way the needle is bouncing here, that there's roughly 240 microns of total runout on the shaft. The feeler at the bottom is spring-loaded and is able to glide along the surface of the shaft to determine the total runout. When you're using a grinder for espresso, 250 microns is roughly the size of the grinds. So you can see where this would be a pretty major issue. Now, the other issue I've had recently was not one that was unique to just me. This is an Option-O Lagom Casa 65CL. Again, Option-O is a company that has an impeccable reputation for quality and for customer service as well. The issue that's been experienced with this grinder is that while the 48mm version of this, which had a 29mm inner burr, has been very solid and received very good reviews across many in the industry. However, when they released the 65mm version, there were many of us that were very excited to try it out. We actually ordered it ahead of the actual shipping dates, sort of as a pre-order, looking forward to getting a larger burr. This is the 65CL. Actually has a inner burr size of 39mm, so roughly 10mm larger than the 48. So we were excited about getting this, and we thought, hey, Option-O, being a company that has this great reputation, that they would have designed and engineered it well. The reputation of the company led us to think that they could go from a 48mm or a 29mm burr on the Casa up to a 39/65mm burr without having any issues. Very quickly on Discord, users that received this started reporting issues. They were reporting that it was bricking. So when we say the word bricking, it means that it just stops functioning, right? It'll be grinding and all of a sudden ceases working. And it was noted that that would happen when it stalled. With grinders, it's not uncommon. It's a very common discussion with grinders about whether or not they stall. It's a common complaint, specifically with light roast beans, espresso grind sizes, that grinders stall. So the issue wasn't with stalling necessarily on its own. The issue is related to the fact that it would stall and then brick itself. Let me show you here. I'm going to just plug it in. You can hear what happens when one of these is bricked. Hear that ticking? That's what they're doing. So quite a number of people on Discord posted that they had this issue. They're trying to get replacements. Also, they were selling, Option-O was selling replacement burrs as well to go into the older 48mm Casas. And users of the 48 when they put in those burrs have also experienced it. Now, for me, I thought I was a lucky one, but mine eventually did have it. So I'm actually getting mine returned. I'm not going to keep it. And this is the first Option-O that I've owned. So this goes back to what I said in the beginning related to reputations that a company can get. The official statement from Option-O about this issue is that they've had problems with those burrs from a manufacturing perspective, that the burrs themselves, the ones called 65CL, that they have had manufacturing defects. And it creates additional friction when grinding, especially again, lighter roasts, espresso grind sizes, that can cause a failsafe to trip permanently on the power control module of the grinder. And so that's what happens here. That clicking, they're saying, is because the power control module is no longer able to power up the grinder. It goes through a cycle over and over again of attempting to turn on and not being able to. I don't want another one, because while there may have been challenges with the manufacturing of those burrs that created additional friction, I'm more concerned about potentially the design and whether or not Option-O is going to address the design element here. Because the fact that a grinder stalls, I don't care how quickly the stall happens, what you're grinding that causes the stall should not create an issue that trips a failsafe that requires you to RMA it, to send it back to them for repair. Many grinders stall. You turn them off, you turn them back on, they continue, or perhaps you coarsen up the grind size, turn it back on so it's able to grind through. They don't brick themselves. Again, this being my first experience with Option-O, and the answers I'm getting, I'm not confident that I want to keep this, and so I'm returning it. It's actually interesting. Varia had with their VS3 sort of a similar issue. The VS3 has a 38 millimeter burr, so it's an inner burr, so it's a very similar size to what the Casa 65 has. And they actually had stalling issues, and they got a bit of a reputation. And this was in their generation 1. They've since resolved the issues, but in their generation 1, they had these stalling issues. Now, the interesting thing was they got a bad reputation for that. Even though it didn't brick it, it was just causing stalling. It's funny how that company, when they were first starting out with the VS3, got a negative reputation because of a stalling issue. And then now we have a established company that has perhaps an even worse, not perhaps, definitely has a worse issue that's going on. The reputation of one of these manufacturers is really driven based off of the experience that one has with them, how they view their approach, and even how they respond to an issue and trying to determine the root cause and discussing what actually happens, the transparency around the process when there are issues. And then also, are they going to create a permanent resolution? Again, right now, the only thing Option-O is saying is that they're just going to give new burrs out. When Varia was having stalling issues in the VS3, again with a very similar sized burr, they actually decided to go back to the drawing board and create a generation 2. And with that one, stalling is not anywhere near as big of a problem or a problem at all. So it'll be interesting to see how Option-O responds to this in the future, and whether or not this will end up having a longer term impact on their reputation. For me, it'll take some work to get my trust earned back with Option-O. It's difficult for manufacturers to be able to earn and maintain a good relationship and a good reputation with their community. They have to take the steps to earn it early. So the first products that get released need to be good. They need to do checks in their factory so we don't run into issues like what I've had with this VS6 here. One thing that I would actually advise Option-O to do here, and I advise this for any company that's having an issue where their quality as well as even their design is being called into question, that they really follow the principles of transparency. It's much easier to keep people's trust if you're very clear on your evaluation of the issue, what you've done to resolve it as a workaround, maybe a short-term fix, and then what also you'll be doing in the longer run from a design perspective. And so that transparency is going to be key for Option-O and for any manufacturer that runs into issues along this lines.